Okay, thank you, and welcome back to Out of States. I'm your host, Lux Blackheart, and this is your co-host.
Isyan.
Welcome and join us as we discuss clerics in 3.5 D&D. So thank you for
The
anyone who
healers,
joining us or watching.
the, the healers of the universe.
Yes. Uh, for those wondering, this is the reshoot for episode 11 due to technical
More
problems.
technical difficulties.
Yeah, but we caught this one immediately. To go over some of the stuff, clerics are one of my favorite classes. They are really good. There's several do's and don'ts. Several of the do's is pick a niche and stay with it as the party support, where you're casting all the buff spells you can, all the healing spells you can, and your primary thing isn't fighting the enemy, but buffing the party, making sure everyone stays alive. There is the War Priest path where you're just doing everything you can to buff yourself, so you're better at defeating the enemy. You can try to do a little bit of both, but that can get a little complicated because all of the spells you're needing to hit other people with require you to touch them. So it's usually good either at the start of combat or if you have time to prep, do it there. Otherwise, attacks of opportunities and stuff come into it. Uh, there is the chance that people are just going to call you the healer from personal experience uh, as a DM and mainly as a player, playing a cleric, being called the healer because 90% of all people that I've interacted with look at clerics as only healers. Only.
Well, that would be because they're the healing class, and the names and healing and clerics have become synonymous.
Yes. It's because they can spontaneously cast heal spells. Uh,
Spontaneously casting heal spells means you use up one of your prepared spells, no matter what it is, to cast a healing spell of the same level of the spell that you've used in order to cast the healing spell.
yes. Unless you're trying to use meta magic feats, where you have to have the spell prepared ahead of time with the meta magic feat. Otherwise, you can't cast it unless you have a rod of that meta magic feat. There's empowered that increases it by 50%, maximize that maxes it out, reach that actually makes it a ranged touch spell instead of a melee touch spell, which that's probably one of the best ways to go. So there's a bundle of things you can do to make um a lot of things uh better. Uh Let me do this. Yeah, and as you can see, uh, the cleric gets a decent amount of spells at level one. Just you may go, oh, they get one spell at level one. Yay, that's really good. It's still really good because any number of spells is good. So the fact that as they go up in level, they're immediately pretty much every level they're getting access to more spells.
Well,
Key
it's
thing.
not that they get one spell, it's that they can prepare one spell. They have a list of spells to prepare from that their guide gives them, but they can only take one of those spells per day at level one.
Yes, because thing to note is clerics know all spells of that level, which means when you're doing your prepping, you can prep any first level spell. So unless the spell comes from a restricted source, uh, like a third party book or an added book, because there are several books that can be utilized if the DM so chooses to use, which I'll go over some of those in a future episode. Uh, the +1 you see next to them, that's your domain spell. Just when you choose a god, and the god's general list is uh, there, trying to show all of it. That just shows the name of the god, what they generally for, their alignment, their domains, typical worshippers. Just when you pick uh, your god, you pick two out of their three domains. Some gods, if you notice, have four domains. You still only pick two of them. You get power based on that domain, while also when you're prepping your spells, you get to prep one out of the two spells you get from those two domains. And depending on the domain, depends on if you get a spell that's usually reserved for another class. There are some spells that are only arcane spells that, depending on how you go, you can get them. And like I said, there is a good list of gods. And depending on the DM, depends on if that DM is going to let you worship all of the gods or go, no, those gods aren't do. Like for instance, I don't do evil campaigns because people have a way of ruining that. So no evil gods. And if I do let an evil god in, it doesn't mean you can be evil. It means this evil god is a prominent evil god. He's considered evil. He does evil things. Like in one of the gods in the world I use is an evil god. He's not on this list though, and he is worshipped and stuff. But if you follow him, you can't be evil because I don't do evil. It means you just can't be good because good. And that is another thing to note about clerics is your alignment has to be within in the parameters of up to one shift away from whatever alignment of the god without being opposed to the god. For instance, if you pick Horonius, the god of valor, he's lawful good. You can be any form of lawful. You can be lawful good, lawful neutral, neutral good. You cannot be any form of chaotic or any form of evil, because that's opposed to his alignment. But you can be any form of lawful and or good. If you pick Paylor, he's neutral good, so you can be chaotic good. You can be lawful good.
But you got to be good.
Yeah, his thing is you have well, I mean, technically, you can be neutral. I mean, I said lawful neutral or chaotic neutral because you're still within one step of the god. Because you cannot be opposed to the god. So he has non-good, good followers. They're not evil because again, they're chaotic neutral or lawful neutral. If you pick a god that's neutral, you're limited to being some form of neutral. And before you ask, no, no, players cannot be true neutral because in order to be true neutral, you technically can't make your own decisions. I will be explaining that further in a later episode. Uh, but for now, uh, Bakub, I can't pronounce the god of roads. He has a weird name to pronounce. And Al they're all neutral. So you can be lawful neutral or chaotic neutral, neutral good. So there's multiple neutrals you can pick. My personal favorite god to worship is Wejess. She's lawful neutral. So as long as you're not chaotic, you can go with her. She's the goddess of death, magic, and law. And as you can somewhat see, her typical worshippers are necromancers. So they are a acceptable branch of having people that work with uh undead, not because they're running around creating evil undead, but for other reasons. When it comes
which we
to
got into later.
yeah, uh, which their only real special they get is their ability to turn or rebuke undead, which that somewhat goes into their alignment, whether they're buffing undead and be the dead or they're pretty much destroying them. Just turn undead is probably one of the more broken abilities because there's an entire chart you roll off of. And the higher you roll, the higher hit die of undead you can affect, and the higher amount of undead you can affect. And if its total hit die is equal to or less than half your clerical level, you automatically destroy them, which means a level 2 cleric can look at a group of skeletons or a group of zombies, use their turn undead ability, and destroy. If they roll high enough, they can destroy the entire group of them, or just multiple of them. And the ability can be used a number of times per day, equal to 3 plus your charisma modifier. Because even though wisdom is used to determine their spells, turn
It's force of
undead.
is brought about by force of character.
Yeah. Um, yeah, pretty for it. Charisma is also pretty important because of that particular aspect there. So the two things to focus on for any cleric to be considered a decent cleric is wisdom and charisma. One is for your spells, the DCs to resist them, the bonus spells you get, and the what level you can cast, while also how good you are at turning undead. And there's a dog in the background being silly. Uh, yeah, a thing to note is the aura of a cleric. This aura is somewhat important because any particular thing that can pick up alignments, while it be through the use of a spell or just a natural ability for what it is, it can feel your aura. For instance, a lot of the demonic and or devilish creatures can just somewhat feel good characters. So if a uh my brain farted on names. So if a rock shows up, which is a demon, demon, it's going to be able to look at the cleric and go, "Oh, you're a good guy," because it can feel your aura of goodness. Or if a Baylor shows up, it's going to go, "Oh, you're obviously some sort of holy person. I might focus on you now." Stop, dog. Please. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, yeah, you can see some of the if you pause and look, you can see some of the information about the deities and spontaneous casting. Uh, but yeah, the clerics are probably one of the good staple classes for any party. They can be listed as probably one of the most important classes because it's generally good to have like someone up close in melee, someone using ranged, someone capable of healing and or casting buff spells. Excuse me. Uh, so clerics, they're pretty important. As I said, while they're buffing everyone or healing everyone,
Well, and
they're
depending
just
on
that
party
important.
size, if you only have yourself and a rogue, you're gonna have to be the tank you can't really focus on healing. If you have a fighter, you can be the healer. If you have a wizard, you have to focus on keeping every both of you alive, and you might have to split um, your casting into healing and battle. I mean, but the cleric really is versatile if you can figure out how
Yeah.
you're going to take advantage of that versatility.
Yeah. Uh, Not to mention the fact that because we're hitting domains at the moment, depending on what god you pick and then what domains you get, can really, really help you out in weird ways. Like the air domain, its power lets you, as you can see, you can turn or destroy earth creatures as a good aligned cleric, or be commander bolster them as an evil one. And you can use this ability uh, same amount of times per day as your normal uh, turning ability. It doesn't stack with or replace your normal turn or rebuke undead, but it's a turn or rebuke earth creatures. And it's not, that does not mean anything of the earth, like, oh, that's an animal, oh, that's a person. No, it's anything with the earth subtype, like earth elementals, for example. You can go, oh, begone, earth thing. And as you can see, there's the list of 1 through ninth level spells you can pick as an option. Each one is good in its own way. Like at 6th level, you get Chain Lightning. That's a pretty good freaking spell right there.
That's also an arcane spell.
Yeah, there's Obscuring Mist, Wind Wall, Gaseous Form, Airwalk, Control, uh, Weather, well, not Control, Weather, Control Winds. There's Control Weather at ninth. Whirlwind and Elemental Swarm, specifically to air only. So you can get a group of air elementals to help you. Then as we go on, there's the Animal Domain. I like this because you get to add knowledge to your list of skills. And you get Speak with Animals once per day as a spell ability. Uh, you can see they have a decent amount of different spells, mainly around animals, which is really good. So those particular, Alona and Obot High, those people are pretty important. And before scrolling down, we can go to Destruction Domain. This one is a pretty good one. So if it's Saint Cuthberg or him, you gained a Smite power, and which in itself is pretty decent. Just as you can see, the supernatural ability to make a single melee attack with a +4 bonus on rolls, and you get a bonus on damage equal to your level if you hit. You declare it before making the attack roll. Pretty decent destruction spells like Disintegrate at level 7, which my co host can agree that's a decent spell.
You took my disintegration.
Yeah. Chaos lets you cast chaos spells with +1. You see Earth, which lets you turn or rebuke air creatures, so that's good. Death Domain gives you pretty much a Death Touch like ability, where once per day you can touch a creature. Uh, yeah, it's like if you touch, you get a die 6 per level. Uh, and if you roll high enough, you can auto kill a creature. So if you're like, oh, I got a 30, if they have 30 hit points or less, they die. And it's current hit points. not max hit points, and there is no save for it. Evil lets you cast evil spells at +1 caster level. Fire Domain lets you turn or rebuke water creatures. Knowledge gives you all knowledge skills and divination spells at a +1. Good lets you cast good spells at a +1 caster level, which is also really good. Law gives you bonus for casting lawful spells. So as you can see, some of them are just, oh, you cast certain spells at a higher caster level. That may not seem all important, but it is because a lot of
Oh, it
stuff
can
is
be.
based on caster level. Healing lets you cast any healing spells at +1 caster level. So at level 1, being considered a second level for any of your cure spells is a big point because it means you heal an extra one. Like cure light wounds is a D8 with a +1 per level to max +5. So you can go, I'm level 4, but I get a total of +5 because I have the healing domain. Luck domain uh lets you re-roll a die roll, so that helps you out a lot. Magic domain that has its own complicated shenanigans with that entire statement there. You can use scrolls, wands, and other devices with spell completions or spell triggers activations as a wizard of 1/2 your clerical level. So that gets its own complication. Strength. You gain an you can perform a feat of strength. That's a supernatural ability. You gain an enhancement bonus to strength equal to your cleric level. It's a free action to activate, and it lasts for 1 round. So once a day for 1 round, your strength can go from whatever it is to really high. So if you're level 10, you can go from I only have a 16 strength. I want to mess you up this turn for free action activate. Now it's a 26, so you get a +5 to hit and damage rolls. So that's really good. Plant lets you turn and rebuke plant creatures. Sun lets you do a greater turning attempt versus undead. With the exception that undead creatures that would be turned are destroyed instead. So instead of them having to, like, you have to be a certain level to auto destroy them instead of having them run. It's like, oh, I can do this once a day. So as long as the turning attempt works on you, you're destroyed instead.
Which is always a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's always a good thing. You also get like sunburst, sunbeam, flame strike, searing light as some of the spells there. So that's
Death
really
and
good.
destruction to undead.
Yeah. Uh, Protection, you can get a protective ward. That's really good. Because that focuses on just protection based shenanigans there. Travel lets you. Let me double check what it. Pretty much it for a number of rounds equal to your cleric level, you pretty much get freedom of movement, which means you can't be grappled or impeded by anything. Some of the bonus spells there are really good, like Find the Path or Greater Teleport. Trickery Domain. You get Bluff, Disguise, and Hide to your list of spells you know. And all the spells there are about like hiding yourself or misleading people. There's even a spell mislead. War Domain. You get martial weapons. Favorite weapon of your deity as a martial weapon and weapon focus with that. So you get 2 feats for free for taking more. Along with all of the spells there are focused around war-based things: magic weapon, spiritual weapon, magic vestments, divine power, which is a broken spell in itself. If you read that, plus extra strength, and you get 1 additional hit point equal to your caster level. Power word: blind, stun, and kill. Excuse me. Water domain lets you turn or destroy fire creatures while giving you multiple water-based things, uh, including like acid fog, which is really good. And then that goes into those spells there. So all in all, the clerics get a lot of good stuff. A a lot. D8 in hit points, decent amount of skills, not that many skill points. But all in all, they are a nice and good rounded class. They can be really fun to play, as long as the party doesn't get you down or beat you into a certain thing. They are just
Right.
overall a fun class to play.
If you want to deal with religion, play the cleric you want to
Yeah,
play. Don't worry
yes,
about whether or not you're expected to be healing or what have you. Just
yeah.
go out
Uh,
and
have fun.
be your cleric.
Yeah, another note: besides any limitations that the DM puts on you, generally the 2 ways to play the cleric is a strict, everything's by the book. You can't don't do anything that could screw up your alignment or obviously upset or offend your god, because that can cause you to lose all your clerical stuff: your ability to turn or rebuke, domain powers, and access to spells. You lose those if your alignment changes and or you anger your god. The other way to play it is certain religions let you have loopholes, which we can, when we decide to go over gods, we'll go over some of the gods' loopholes, because each god has their own little weird loopholes, which can be quite funny and entertaining and interesting. Uh, but on that note, there's really nothing left to actually cover. Sorry if this episode feels a little rushed or anything like that. Uh, but thank you for
Technical
watching.
difficulties.
Uh,
Like and subscribe.
yeah, remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you on uh the podcast next week, where we will be going over druids. Dun dun
Done.
dun.